Hey guys, welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andrew Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Bidner, Ash Paulson, and special guest Chris Kirbopher and Yosi to discuss potential DLC for Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS. So let's get started. Alright guys, well, Smash Bros. 3DS is out there in the wild, at least in Japan, soon to be in the US, and elsewhere in the world and all that good stuff. But of course, it hasn't stopped people from speculating about what might be coming next for the game, because you can never satisfy the Smash audience, of course. You can never have too many characters, too many stages. So I thought we'd go over some of the rumors happening and, give our thoughts on, what it all could mean. So one of the more popular rumors going around right now has been one from someone called Spainkiller on NeoGAF, who claims to basically have a source at NUE, I believe, Nintendo of Europe. And he claims that that models of Dixie, Ridley, the Chorusman, and Mewtwo exist in the game. So essentially, these would be 4, characters coming to the Wii U version will be unlocked in the 3DS one by linking them, I believe.
Right.
Now, on top of that, there was another rumor recently that originated on Reddit from someone that has the same claims to have that claims the same 4 characters that come into the game, in addition to Impa. And he even elaborates, giving a moveset for several of these characters, or in fact, I think all these characters, giving some more details on them, and then adds to this that the game's gonna have about 40 new stages and 15 returning ones, which will make 55 in total. And then he talks about a new mode called Tower of Smash, in which you climb a 100-floor tower, and you take on. There's like 3 doors in each floor, and with each one offering a specific challenge, with a different character and stage and different rule sets. Now, the cool thing about this potential mode is the idea that you choose 4 characters from the start, and they represent your lives. So once one character dies, you take over the next character. And so on and so forth until you're out of characters, which I think sounds like a really cool idea. So yeah, before we get too lost in all the details, let's just get your guys' thoughts on, on either one or both of these leaks. And yeah, what do you think might actually be the real deal for Smash Brothers, if anything?
The most plausible rumor in here, and the one I think makes the most sense, is probably the Tower of Smash. Characters, it's so difficult to say. There's so many people tossing characters out willy-nilly. Who knows what can happen? And it's possible all 5 of these could be in. It's possible none of these could be in because of connectivity. Nobody knows what the connectivity is going to be, so there's all these ideas of what it could represent. But on a pure basis of what I could actually see being in the game, Tower of Smash makes the most sense. I mean, it sounds like a really cool, it would be a really cool mode, mixing in, getting people to try out all the different Smash fighting types, as well as I think that it mentions in here that there's bosses that you can fight, such as Dynablade and the Mecha Dragon. So there's where a lot of the bosses that we've seen show up in the after trailer, like Metal Face, which you've said does not show up on Gower Plains on the 3DS. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can really see that mode taking off and being something in the game. As for the rest of it, 55 stages is a lot. I mean, that'd be awesome if it's true, but 55 stages plus all the ones we've got on 3DS, maybe that's why we have so many repeats on the 3DS, just because Wii U got all the new stages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this rumor reads is totally viable to me, like the Tower of Smash mode. And also, I mean, the character parts, they read a lot like the Van Rose link, or the Van Rose leak, which was the one that ended up being legit. It was posted way back in July and talked about how Bowser Jr. and Duck Hunt, were in the game, and how Bowser Jr. had Koopaling alts. So this does read similarly because the guy goes into detail about the potential new characters' mechanics. But again, like you said, Derek, it's so hard to know. I mean, it's totally possible. None of these characters seem that outlandish. I mean, these are all 4 characters that either have had lots of fan support or Chorusmen were in the Gamatsu leak. Dixie and Mewtwo seem like they're not really that outlandish. So, this does read as possible to me. But of course, there's way too little to actually go on to be that sure. So the stage list, I mean, yeah, like you said, Derek, it's a huge list. I mean, I would love for it to be true because it's a great list if it is true. But it does seem like it's possible that there may be just too much content here. I mean, again, Sakurai and his team are human. How could they have possibly created 55, or I should say 40 new stages for a 55-stage roster, and the 34 stages we see in the 3DS version? It just seems a little impossible.
My thoughts are pretty similar to Ash's. I'm not 100% sold on this yet. Some of the stuff seems a little almost like too good to be true, I guess you could say. There's certain things that seem pretty believable, but I don't know. We've had so many like this come out, from various sources that, especially also now that there's one of the games is out. It makes for more material for people to, I guess, kind of more easily put thought into fake leaks like this, and I mean, I'm sure there's probably even more than these that we miss, like kind of bouncing around on 4chan or whatever.
Yeah, there's tons of leaks out, or tons of supposed leaks out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say, I was actually just reminded of this, like, as you were recording. So I'm kind of happy nobody outed me on this on the very first episode that I did with you guys, but I had mentioned a while ago when I had played the demo at New York, at the Nintendo Center in New York, that one of the representatives working there mentioned something offhandedly about how bosses would be showing up in Smash Run. And, the game is out, and as far as I know, nobody has seen Kraid or King K. Rool or anything like that mixed in there. So I don't know if that was a mistake on his part, or maybe he was getting something confused, if he was, like, mistaking it with just some of the enemies or something. I don't know, but it makes me wonder also about this whole deal with the bosses in this Tower of Smash mode, supposedly. Some of the strange things about this, and what I think people may or may not be like preying on in terms of trying to get people to believe some of these leaks, are the connectivity between the two versions of the game and exactly how those will factor into each other. What will be affected, what will change, and what will, if something like that drastic will affect the Wii U version and vice versa by connecting them between each other. So I think that some of that is what's allowing for a lot of this more fantastical stuff to be like, thought up and who knows what's true. So
I mean that really is the question. Yeah, I mean this newest leak, I think, from Reddit, or I don't know what the original source is, but the one I'm looking at is from Reddit. With Tower Smash, I think that sounds awesome, and if there are in fact 55 stages, that would be fantastic. And if you look at the progression of like how stages have been added to Smash, like it's not that out there. If you just look at the console versions, this Brawl had 41 stages by itself, which is 12 more than Melee. So I could see them, adding a similar amount to Smash Brothers Wii U, or at least theoretically being possible. The only thing that would make me question that is, how much, is they've had to split up the stages a bit between the 3DS version as well. So I don't know if they actually could accomplish that this time. But the biggest issue I have with the new leak, or with the Reddit thing, is Impa. I don't know. That seems to me like the most outlandish choice out there, especially because it doesn't match up with anything else we've seen. Any other supposed rumors, including Gematsu. So I don't know, but I do think Tower Smash sounds awesome. So I do want this to be true. Because that mode actually sounds really neat, and I really do love the idea of mixing and matching characters. Basically, having the set roster of characters you're going into with it, and that's it. And it's something I actually wish Smash Bros. Had done more of. Like, it's always been you choose one character and you're that character for it. But I think it's likely that we will get some kind of DLC / connecting the two games, especially because the 3DS version, like the character screen looks so weird. Because it has, the gaps on the bottom third of it, where you can easily slot in 4 other characters without having to scale down the other icons, which of course matches up with the Spainkiller leak from NeoGaf. And of course they could fit more in there too if they keep scaling the icons like they have when you unlock characters. So I don't know. I think Chorus Kids make a lot of sense given all the leaks we've had. Dixie would be awesome. Ridley, a lot of people want to see him there. And we still haven't seen him in boss form, so he hasn't been ruled out as a character.
Yeah.
And the Mewtwo, I think, makes the most sense of anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Andre. The only part of this rumor that really reads as false to me is the Impa thing, just because it doesn't match up with all the other kind of, possible leaks that are out there. But it is important to note that Sakurai has only ever said that the two versions would share the same character roster. He never has said that the 3DS roster was or would be complete when the game first came out.
Right.
And honestly, it does make a lot of sense for Nintendo to hold back 4 or 5 characters to coincide with the release of the Wii U version, just because, I mean, yeah, people are excited for it. Smash Brothers fans are excited for it. But how do you get people who aren't necessarily hardcore Smash Brothers fans to buy the second version of the game? that you might already own. You add a few new characters. So it seems very plausible to me that there could be a few more characters held back for the Wii U version.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that would be the best way to guarantee you get more sales of the Wii U one. Like, that'll get people excited, especially if you have the fan favorites like Mewtwo on there, and new characters like the Chorus Kids, who I think a lot of people really do want to see at this point.
Right, and I mean it may be this may be kind of a tenuous connection to make, but the fact that Dr. Mario has returned in Smash 3DS does say that Sakurai is at least willing to look at returning Melee characters.
Although, I guess now they mention it, there is a fact that there was that story I saw, a post on Go Nintendo. I forget the source originally. I think it was from the Famitsu interviews with Sakurai, where he mentioned, I think he explicitly mentioned, going off the translation, that the reason they haven't brought back more Melee characters is because the game's just too old, apparently. I don't know if got lost in translation, but that was what came across.
It's very odd.
Yeah, so that would be the biggest argument against Mewtwo. Also it's just Sakurai being Sakurai again. Because he also said before that just because we're working with Namco doesn't mean Pac-Man will be a character. And of course, Pac-Man was a character as I expect. I'm sure many people did.
It's interesting he mentions that too, because I think we were discussing kind of off the show about how it's strange with some of the, and I even yesterday I was talking to some people about this, the remnants of each game in succession that stay. How this one is very much like there's a lot of stuff carried over from Brawl. What stuff was carried over from Melee? What stuff is carried over from the N64 version even? Right. And kind of seeing what do they keep and what do they tweak and everything. In this case, because there's just so much content from Brawl, technically kind of recycled and then I guess tweaked. I don't know. It makes me curious about that whole bit with Melee's data is very old, so it's very difficult to still have it work with 2 generations of gaming systems later, and how exactly they make that work.
Well,
I guess I'm more surprised that they are even referencing that they're actually able to pull data, I guess, from Brawl, evidently, and use that in this game. I don't know what their porting process is.
And Sakurai has also said that even veterans have been rebuilt from the ground up for these versions of Smash Brothers. So I don't see why Melee being too old would even enter into it if they're rebuilding them from the ground up anyway. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. There are a lot of things here that don't quite line up. But then again, Sakurai has said many things in the past that don't quite line up. So it could just be something that was lost in translation, or it just could be something that was taken out of context. I mean, it's kind of hard to know for sure.
Well, this is Sakurai. He's a master of chaos, and it's hard. You never know what he's going to do or what exactly is going on in his head. So, I could see all this stuff happening. I could see none of this stuff happening. It really does come down to what he feels is the best product. And I think overall I do want to see a lot of this stuff. Some of the ideas here are quite good, even beyond just the characters. Some of the stages they have listed as possible, as possibly coming in, like the Underworld from Kid Icarus. That'd be really cool.
Or the Greenhouse, which is a Game & Watch game.
Yeah.
Exactly. Torian would be good. I do find it a little strange here that they have NES Remix. That seems a little too current.
Yeah, seems like low-hanging fruit. That and Nintendo Land seem kind of strange.
I could see Nintendo Land, not NES Remix.
Well, Nintendo Land's a weird one because that already represents. I mean, that itself will be representing franchises already represented in the game. But I guess it could do it in its unique style. But yeah, if I had to choose I am leaning on the side of the Reddit link or the Reddit leak being fake. But the one for Spainkiller sounds a lot more plausible. Although there's one thing I wanted to mention about about the Reddit one, and that's he mentions that Ridley doesn't have his wings on the ground, but would grow them when using his up B. Does that? I don't know. I haven't played all the Metro games. Does that make sense?
That's never something I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's another thing that
That's more of a Meta Knight thing.
Yeah.
That's a weird one to me. But then again, it's like if you were making this up, why would you make that up?
Ridley's great, and I would love to see him, but I've never had my hopes up for him being in there at any point.
Yeah, I'm sort of the same way. I really want him in. I think he's great and be a good fit, especially get more Metroid representation in there. But whether he actually gets in or not, I'm not holding my breath until I actually see him in the game.
Yeah, well, the Metroid thing would be the main reason why I'd want him there, just because, Metroid, is a pretty big Nintendo franchise and has one representation in there. partially because that game does not have any characters. That series doesn't have any characters, especially compelling ones. Sorry, Metro Prime 3. Although, I guess using the same argument, that would be maybe a point in the favor of Impa, because there is no other new Zelda representative in this game, if you don't count, Zelda and Sheik being split. So it would make sense on that level to have another new Zelda character.
That's true.
I wouldn't mind Impa because I've been playing Hyrule Warriors like crazy, and Impa's my favorite character in that game. So I kind of want to see her in, even though according to this, she would be based off her Skyward Sword design, which would fit, which would work fine. I think I don't mind Impa as a character. I kind of do want to see her in.
Yeah, I would too. And although I'd say one other thing I just noticed that kind of stands out to me about this leak possibly not being legit is in the stage list there are 3 new Kirby stages, which, hey, I love Kirby, I'm fine with that, but that does seem like a bit much. You've got...
That's Sakurai bias.
Yeah, I know, right? You got Cookie Country from Returns to Dreamland, you've got Mount DDD from the original, and then you've got Patchland from Kirby's Epic Yarn, which... That just seems like a lot of new Kirby stages.
That would be a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah.
Especially with the 3DS one not getting... Or I guess we'll got the Kirby's Dream Land stage.
Right.
But, yeah, just one.
Something just occurred to me about Impa, by the way, because I was trying to wrap my head around that. That's completely new. I was like, oh, maybe she'll be a Sheik clone or something. I don't know. But here's the thing. So with the exception of Toon Link, we don't have, any other characters that are not Twilight Princess. They've just kept the Twilight Princess deal because they carry those models over.
Right.
Impa doesn't have a warrior type form in that game. I don't even think that she's in Twilight Princess as far as I'm aware. So it's like, are they just going to make an exception? Is it the Skyward Sword one and or the Ocarina of Time one or something, and then everybody else is from another series? It's like, why would that be the case? That just seems like a very out of place sort of decision. So I don't know. I don't know if that's one of the main things that makes me really doubt that that's the case.
Yeah, I could definitely see your point there because it has been a while since there's been a 3D Zelda game where Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf all show up. Because Ganondorf obviously wasn't in Skyward Sword, so if they want to unify those designs, they got to go back to Twilight Princess. But if they want Impa, well, she wasn't in Twilight Princess, so either you got to go up to Skyward Sword or back to Ocarina of Time. And I can see how that unifying the Zelda looks can be a bit of a problem there. So if they were to put Impa in, I would suspect the Skyward Sword one just to get that game more representation. But it's I don't know. It's really hard to say whether or not she'd get in. It's also suspicious that all the other characters that are listing as possible, and describing how their movesets would work, kind of have pretty long sections there. However, Impa just says, Skyward Sword design is a mix between Sheik's agility and Zelda's magic. Very simple, non-descriptive, doesn't really give much of a word about her. So I think she's probably the most suspicious of all the possible ones getting in here because she has the least amount of detail.
It is kind of funny that we actually think that Ridley is the more likely candidate in this. But yeah, and the thing with Impa though with the character design, they had a similar problem with Sheik. But she didn't exist in Twilight Princess, but they just redesigned her as if she had. And they could do something similar with Impa, although I do think they'd actually go with their Skyward Sword model.
That's the thing. It's like Twilight Princess was the most recent game at the time that Brawl came out, so it's like making a Twilight Princess version of Sheik for Smash Brothers makes sense because it's still marketing towards the game. If they make a Twilight Princess version of Impa for Smash Brothers, and Twilight Princess is now a game that's how many years old at this point, when they're more focused on Hyrule Warriors and friggin' and Skyward Sword, it's why would they make an antiquated redesign of a character for a new game? It just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't line up with anything at all.
No, it doesn't. And I think the fact that we have Toon Link in there as well, as we did in Brawl, I think shows they don't care too much about skipping having different generations represented. And I actually wish, I'm fine with that. I think the more Zelda games represented, the better.
Well, and Skyward Sword's Impa design is so unique, just from a design standpoint.
It is.
I would love to see. I do like the Hyrule Warriors design a lot too, but Skyward Sword's design is just incredibly unique, and I'd love to see that version of Impa make it in just for that reason alone.
Okay, so that pretty much covers it for that leak, or those leaks. I think we all agree.
Quotations.
Yeah, in quotations, right? Is supposed leaks. Definitely, this isn't Bowser Jr. or Duck Hunt we're talking here.
Yeah, those guys are completely plausible.
But Chris, I believe you also have some interesting ideas here based on some observations you've noticed. With what you've seen in Smash Brothers 3DS.
Right. So about a week and a half ago now, Nintendo did a 8-hour-long stream through the Treehouse with all their Nintendo of America staff, and they showcased pretty much all of the features of the 3DS version, the English version of the 3DS Smash. Knowing full well and acknowledging that it had come out in Japan and people knew a lot of the special features and stuff, and they were like, no, we're going to keep it a surprise, and be fair to everybody who doesn't want to have it spoiled for them, which was cool. And one of the things that they actually did that I was very surprised about is they went through an entire playthrough of Classic Mode, even going so far as to show Master Core at the end, which I was just like, wow, okay, show what that is. So they did that, and they were speeding through the credits at the end, but with my lightning-fast reflexes, or insanity, whatever you want to call it, I managed to get some screen grabs of the English voiceover cast, because, I'm interested in that stuff, and I wanted to do some research. But in doing that, I found some very interesting and weird kind of things. So the voiceover credits of the game, in both the Japanese and English versions of 3DS, of Smash Brothers, are separated into sections. There's the playable characters, the associated characters, which are like the ones that are like directly tied to a playable character, so like, Chrom or Doc Louise, etc. The assist trophies, the Pokemon characters, of which there are about 700 of them, and then the respected actors, like the woman who played Koumei Kotake in the Ocarina of Time level, I guess because she's revered or something. But anyway, so they're all separated into sections. So in the associated characters section, I noticed something very unusual relating to Star Fox. Andre, as the person among us who I think has played the most of the game overall, do me a favor, tell me what playable Star Fox characters and levels are in the 3DS version at the moment.
Yeah, it's just Fox and Falco, and then on Corneria. Okay,
so in the playable characters section, it was revealed to me that Fox and Falco are played by their actors from Star Fox 64 3D. They got them in to specifically re-record their dialogue, and they didn't recycle the stuff from Brawl, right? In the associated characters section, there are basically 3 different voiceover casts of Star Fox all in there, of the other characters. So those of you who are subscribed to the channel probably might have noticed, because I pointed out and said, hey, Andre, you should test this, that there's a video of him testing out the Corneria trick, where you, as Fox or Falco, can do your taunts by pressing rapidly back and forth on the D-pad, and it triggers a conversation that you hear with the other Star Fox characters, like over like a codec or whatever. So this was recycled from Melee. In Melee, those conversations were recorded by the voices that played the characters in Star Fox Adventures over at Rareware at the time. So they recycled that audio, and those 3 actors are in the credits. But a bunch of actors from Star Fox Assault are in there, and a bunch of actors from Star Fox 64 3D are in there. So, the question poses of, all right, so what are the rest of those guys doing in the credits if there's nothing else in the game for them to have done in the first place? So we actually talked about this yesterday, but we decided to save this conversation for this discussion because on this leak we just talked about are Lilac Cruz, which has the assault actors also doing something similar where you do the taunt and you hear like them having conversations or whatever. And the Great Fox picture that we saw as a pick of the day could be a Star Fox 64 3D stage with the same sort of thing, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But that's for the console version, not the 3DS version. Right. So, there is the possibility of, maybe they just have shared credits. But, we were talking earlier about Metal Face on the Gower Plains level. He's not there. And he was in that trailer, which means he's probably on the console version of Gower Plains. If the 2 games were sharing credits, why isn't his guy in there? Because he's not. So, the theory was kind of helped come up with by friend Cyberlink420. He's from the Show Me Your News podcast, where it's very possible that little arrow that somebody discovered, maybe going to an extra page that they found discovered in the data or whatever, maybe by linking the 2 versions, you unlock the stages of each version and can play them on both. Like, you connect them and you can play the 3DS levels on the Wii U version, and you can play the Wii U stages on the 3DS version. Like maybe just like, you know, like watered down a little bit graphically so they're not as intensive.
I don't know if I necessarily agree if that makes sense, just because Sakurai has talked in the past about shared stages between the two versions. If that happened, there wouldn't be any more shared stages. They would all just be in both versions, which seems like a little far-reaching for me. I don't see how the 3DS game could possibly have every single stage from the Wii U version, even if it is watered down graphically, because then there's no point of having shared stages.
So it may not have to be every stage, but it could be, you know, additional stages that you get just from, you know, buying the Wii U version.
That's true. The only other thing is I noticed, Chris, he said it was possible that the Great Fox in Smash Bros. Wii U could be a Star Fox 64 3D stage, except that Sakurai specifically said, if I remember correctly, that the Great Fox appears there as it did in Star Fox Assault, which tells me that it would be a Star Fox Assault stage.
Okay, so then it very well could be Lilac Cruise again. That is possible.
Now, is there one other possibility that I'd have to ask you two this, is does any Star Fox enemies show up in Smash Run? Maybe that's where their voice clips are coming from.
Not that I've seen so far.
No, not that I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah, I think honestly, the only Star Fox related content in the 3DS version that anybody has discovered after it's been out for a week now, over a week even, are just, as Andre said, Fox and Falco, the Corneria level, which has the recycled melee trick in it, and some trophies that obviously don't speak. So that's what it is that's tripping me up about this. I don't think that these games have shared credits, because there's some other holes in here that are making me like question that. So I don't know. It's very possible that there's also just, you know, stuff exclusive to the 3DS version that's just kind of still buried there. Mm-hmm. But it's just these other Star Fox actors in there, specifically in the associated characters part of the credits. It just really is making me like wonder, like, why are they there? There's no other thing or other reason for them to be in there at all. So it's just making me really ponder, like, you know, what is it that's going to happen? Like, I really do think that this is tied to some sort of connection between the two different versions. But as to what that actually is, because no, you're right, Ash, it very well could not be the stages being shared. That's just one idea. I don't know what else it could be, and in a way that is kind of exciting, you know.
So yeah, it totally is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it means anything, but you would think that if it is shared credits, which I don't think it is either, you would think that there would be even more actors in there that you can't recognize just because of how much, you know, how many other stages there are going to be there should be in the Wii U version that we don't know about. And you know, that might require more voice acting, or, you know, other elements of that game that might require more voice acting. You know, and the fact that if you look at the stage selection screen on the 3DS, there's like a really odd-looking blank spot there where there should be a stage and there's not. So, I mean, at the least, I hope there's at least one stage it poured over, or it's DLC or something, just to fill that gap. So, yeah, I mean, I could see them doing that for a few stages. I don't think they bring over every stage, especially that Reddit rumor is true with the game having like 55 stages. But then, yeah, there is that arrow you mentioned too, which Go Nintendo posted about someone, you know, looking through the source files of Smash Bros. 3DS and finding a couple of arrows that should appear, or that look like they'd appear on the menu screen, but don't, and could be used to like cycle through pages. So, I mean, if they really wanted to, there could be like a Wii U page, for instance, or stages taken from the Wii U version, or just, you know, secondary, just a second page of stages or whatever.
It's like I said, it's impossible to save one for another. It's a very interesting discovery, and as Andre had said, just curious how it's limited only to Star Fox. And I'm just trying to get all possibilities and people questioning stuff. These actors do not do any other characters, correct?
No,
it is just those Star Fox characters.
The only one I believe that was doubled is Dex Manley, who in Brawl he played Falco and I think a couple other Star Fox characters in the Assault thing. And I believe, because he's in the Japanese version's credits, I think he did the Saki Amamiya trophy, because that one speaks in English. That's the whole point of him. But he's not in the assist trophy section of the credits. He's in the associated characters. And the reason that the Star Fox actors are in that section is because those codec conversations, whatever you want to call them, are directly related to Fox and Falco's abilities. They're triggered by you doing something with their moveset. That's why they're in there along with, like, Chrom, you know, because Chrom is part of Robin's Final Smash, etc. That's why they're classified as that. They're not, like, in the assist trophy section or whatever. So, yeah, it's just, like, having like, these two other 64 3D actors, these couple other Assault actors, and then the Melee / Adventures guys. It's just very, like, strange. It's a little inconsistent. And it seems like it's some kind of key to figuring out something that's going to connect these two versions together and potentially could be really, really cool. But we have no idea really what it could be.
Me neither, but it sounds, I mean, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to kind of exploring this, further.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, all that matters is that we get more content.
Yeah.
And I don't care how they go about that. I think this is all some pretty interesting stuff. And I think it would make, if any of this stuff comes true, it would make a lot of people happy, whether it's more stages or having characters like Mewtwo or especially Ridley. There's gonna be a lot of people that they'll lose their shit if they see Ridley's in the game. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, do you guys have any final thoughts at all about any of this, any of the DLC stuff, or anything you personally want to see that we haven't talked about yet?
I'm excited about whatever potential this stuff might hold. I mean, I think the bottom line is that it's great that there's still so much to be excited about over the next 2.5 months. I think at least there's still so much more that hasn't been fully discovered yet. Do we know for certain if the November 20 whatever is when the Wii U version is coming out, or is that still kind of not?
It's still it hasn't been official, but that's totally going to be it though, I'm sure.
It would make sense for them to wait to actually officially release it until after the 3DS version comes out, because you don't want to show a release date for the Wii U version and everybody's like, well, that takes away completely from 3DS.
Right.
So I don't expect to hear anything about that until after 3DS is out in the US.
Well, the positive thing to take away from this is the fact that what Nintendo's been pulling with this is working. They're releasing the 3DS version ahead of time, which at one point I think maybe we might have even thought might have been detrimental because of the because the 3DS is more successful than the Wii U or whatever. But no, it's like there's even more hype and even more excitement over what else there might be down the pipe. The hype still hasn't died even from everything being leaked, because the game is coming out very, very soon over here, and everybody's going to be super hooked onto that for a good while. We still have the picks of the day going that are still going to be showing new things more and more stuff for us to discuss about. And, even with these other little minor things, just something as insignificant as, these guys are listed in the credits. What's that about? It's like, there's so much stuff that creates excitement about this game and then the other installment of it that we're going to get not too long from now. So I think it's really cool, and I'm glad that Nintendo's basically benefiting from it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that wraps up our Smash Brothers discussion, so thanks, guys, for watching. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. You can find links to in the description below. It's a good way to keep up to date on everything we post. And, of course, make sure to check out Chris's YouTube channel, Kirbopher15. He does a lot of really good videos over there, including Did You Know voice acting. I'm sure you'll have a lot of stuff coming up for Smash Brothers, I imagine.
Yes, expect there to be an episode entirely dedicated to just these two games.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, well, thanks for watching, guys, and bye.